All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking a genuinely fascinating and highly unique spiritual cosmology from Chapter 2 of our source text. We're going to be looking objectively at a comprehensive framework that tries to explain the supernatural through a very specific lens.
So let's just dive right in with a question that kind of challenges our everyday earthly common sense. Are miracles confined to the ancient past, or are they a present reality? Most historical texts treat miracles like ancient myths, but the text we're examining today takes a drastically different approach. It argues that miraculous events aren't just possible today, they are measurable, ongoing phenomena happening right now all around us.
In fact, the text makes a really bold claim. Miracles, specifically miraculous healings of severe illnesses, are actively happening today. According to the author, within a specific religious community known as happy science, these events are becoming especially frequent. The source points to a massive surge in their occurrence, and it attributes this directly to rising levels of faith among believers. Basically, the idea is that when collective belief goes up, the chances of what we'd call a miracle completely skyrocket.
To figure out the mechanics behind all these claims, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with miracles in modern times, then explore alien resurrections in history, identify the threat of evil spirits, and wrap up with the power of true faith.
Okay. Section 1. Miracles in Modern Times. Let's look at how the source frames the occurrence of these present-day events.
The teachings actually outline very specific interventions designed to trigger these healings. A major one is a specialized spiritual prayer ritual called Super Vega healing, and the source gives a really specific modern anecdote to back this up. It claims that a patient suffering from a life-threatening subarachnoid hemorrhage, someone literally hovering on the brink of death, was completely cured and walked out of the hospital the exact same day this prayer was performed. So it's positioned not as a medical fluke, but as a direct result of targeted spiritual intervention.
Moving on to Section 2, Alien Resurrections in History. Let's see how these modern miracles build on a pretty unconventional cosmic history.
To understand the present, the text says we have to look back. It draws a direct line from the modern healings we just talked about to some of the most famous resurrections in human history. It creates this continuum from ancient Egypt through the 1st century right up to the modern era. It's basically suggesting the underlying mechanism for all these incredible events is exactly the same. So what is the science behind this? Well, to grasp it, we have to talk about what the source calls interdimensional power. The text defines this as spiritual energy from higher dimensions that can physically intervene here on Earth. And the text is clear, this isn't magic. It's framed more like a higher form of physics from spiritual realms that can alter our physical reality. Think of it like a hidden law of the universe that only clicks into place when it's channeled through genuine, unwavering faith. This brings us to a really fascinating perspective. The text reinterprets ancient mythology through an extraterrestrial lens. Take the ancient Egyptian myth of Osiris, for example, who was famously torn apart and then put back together. The text claims this wasn't just symbolic folklore. Osiris was literally reconstructed and revived. And how? Well, through advanced healing technology brought by visiting extraterrestrials using that exact same Vega healing power invoked in those modern prayers.
Then, the text applies this same framework to a massive cornerstone of Western religion, making the startling assertion that Jesus Christ's resurrection in the 1st century was also facilitated by these extraterrestrial beings. According to the document, after Jesus died and was placed in the tomb, his body was actually drawn up into the air using advanced tractor beams operated by beings from the star system Vega, and that is how the text explains the empty tomb and the resurrection 3 days later.
Now you might be wondering, how does the text justify blending ancient scripture with sci-fi concepts? It all comes down to a specific number, 1,000. The source claims these beings from the Vega star system possess science and technology that is exactly 1,000 years more advanced than our earthly capabilities. To put that into perspective, what primitive humans perceived as divine miracles, like assembling a dismembered body or raising the dead, is literally just advanced medical science to the Vegans. Okay, Section 3, the threat of evil spirits. Because if there is a cosmic force for healing, the text also introduces a hidden spiritual antagonist causing our earthly suffering.
The book outlines a pretty stark spiritual worldview. It argues that severe physical illness isn't just a biological breakdown. It is deeply intertwined with spiritual attacks.
The text introduces the idea that invisible evil spirits and demons actively target people, and that this spiritual interference physically manifests in the human body as severe illness and disease.
And get this, the crucial point here is a really specific and radical claim made by the author. A staggering 75% of severe illnesses are actually caused by evil spirits and demonic possession. That is a huge departure from modern medical science, placing the vast majority of severe health crises squarely in the realm of spiritual warfare.
Which brings us to Section 4, the power of true faith. If demonic possession is the root of the problem, here is the text's personal solution for accessing interdimensional protection.
The source draws a really sharp line between two distinct mindsets. On one hand, you have earthly common sense. The argument is, if you only believe in what you can physically see, you submit completely to the physical rules of this world, which unfortunately leaves you incredibly vulnerable to spiritual attacks. On the other hand, you have steadfast faith. The text claims this type of faith actually allows you to transcend earthly rules. It's the key that unlocks that protective, interdimensional power we talked about earlier.
To keep evil spirits away, the teachings lay out a strict psychological and spiritual defense. They suggest that demons can't just attack randomly. They only strike when a person's negative thoughts, like anger, fear, or despair, align with the demon's frequency. It's kind of like tuning a radio. So the defense strategy is to maintain a pure mind. By holding on to unwavering belief and refusing to give evil spirits an opening, your steadfast faith acts as a literal shield, blocking demonic control and the illnesses they bring.
We're going to wrap up this explainer with a really provocative challenge straight from the author. It asks readers to not just passively believe these concepts, but to actively cultivate genuine faith, repel negative forces, and become living witnesses to these miracles. It leaves us with a fascinating, entirely unified worldview, where the physical and the spiritual are intimately linked. So it leaves us with one final question to ponder. If our physical reality is truly shaped by our spiritual belief, what kind of universe is your mind building right now?